What guitarist are you? I'm not supposed to talk to electric guitarists.
Oh, Georgie, don't worry. Down here we all play classical guitar.
And when I hear this study, I'm more scared than I don't feel really peaceful. I don't know what's your opinion, and maybe you can share with us. When I was a kid, I remember feeling really strange playing this piece, and to me it reminded me, something like a clown.
Let's have a look at the scary clown study from Villa-Lobos' famous 12 Etudes. The cycle really deserves a whole separate video about its history because there's so much to explore and rectify. As it turns out, it doesn't matter if it's Dowland, Bach, Sohr, or a modern 20th century composer. There are always disagreements about editions and performance practice. That's half of the fun after all. Today, Gabriel Bianco gives us a highly enlightening view into his approach to the piece. Watch the full video on tonebase. A free 14-day trial gives you full access to the entire library. As you can see, it can be accessed from any device, and there's so much to offer. And the library keeps growing and expanding constantly. Sign up now under the link in the video description.
Of course, the studies by Villa-Lobos are very important for us, for the guitarist. For me also, since I'm 11 or 12, every year I had to play one study by Villa-Lobos in my exams, and my teacher tried to make me practice all the studies. I think also it's a very important cycle for us, for the guitarist. When we talk about studies, we should really define what is a study, because it doesn't have the same definition in the 19th century or in the 18th century, end of 18th century, or in the 20th century. Of course, we all have in the guitar in mind the studies by Sohr, for example, by Giuliani, which are mostly studies for tutorials. They are very, not easy, but they're not the same level than their concert pieces. They are shorter, and they are usually based on only one idea. But from the 19th century, the studies, became a kind of piece, right? It became, something different. It was not only for tutorial, but also to make music with it, let's say. And in the piano, you can also talk about the Chopin studies, for example, which are concert studies, then Rachmaninoff, and so on. And for the guitar, I would say that the first real concert studies for me are from Regandi, because I think they are very beautiful pieces of music. But for sure, the Villa-Lobos studies establish a cycle of 12 studies that are, I think, every guitarist, professional or non-professional, should know them and at least, have practiced at least, let's say, half of them. So today we are going to play the number 5, and those studies by Villa-Lobos should be divided in 2 parts. From the first study to the 6th study. Basically, in those first 6 studies, you have one general idea, and there are not different parts with too many contrast, which is different from the study number 7, where you start to have different parts with different characters. It's not anymore just one arpeggio, one sort of scale, bars, repeated chords, but it's already like a piece of music, and you have different elements like this bring together. For the study number 5, he's actually working on dynamic, and this is how I would like to teach you this piece. Before going through the piece and showing you all the little things, all little details, I would like to give some general outlines. First, talking maybe about the character of the piece, which is difficult to define, because you have this ostinato, which sounds, nice. I mean, it sounds quiet, and you have this main melody that sounds like a song for kids, right? But somehow this put all together is a little bit frightening, I have to say. And I'll try to explain why. So you have just in this beginning, you have those notes, those how to say, those intervals that are not very consonant, even though the whole should be completely consonant. It's actually more dissonant than consonant. And you have, for example, those sevenths, and they create something a little weird. All together, it makes something very scary, right? It's not only because Stephen King wrote it, of course, but I don't know, I see a similarity between this study and the view of a clown. So all those elements put together create a dissonance to me. And it's not because the musical elements taken one by one are simple and nice and quiet, that when they are put together, they don't create something else. Also, there is something that makes me a little, not scary, but that you would never really feel that we are well seated. You have this pa-pi, 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 which is always regular. So you have those 4 beats always together. But the melody, ti-ta, 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 ti, sometimes appears twice slower, sometimes it is, on 2 bars, sometimes on 1 bar, and there is not really a logic like 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars. So there is a contrast between the main rhythmical element, the main ostinato, which is very, very divided, and the melodies and all the things happening that you can't really anticipate it. So when it's the first time you hear the study, you have the feeling that the melody starts randomly. So I think all of this makes this piece really something amazing that I really, really enjoy. So in my introduction, I said that on this study we work on dynamic, and I want maybe to give a little more of precision on that. I mean that we work on dynamic in between different voices. You have this main ostinato, always in the middle, most of the time with thirds. And I would suggest, however you play it with fingering, sometimes people like to start like this, people like to play only thumb and eye, for example. However you play it, please be careful in the touch that you use, that you are very soft, that you never put some weight on the strings. You never like this, but you always go on the string like this, very soft. The nuance can be very piano also on this element, always. And what I think is interesting to work on in this study is the different sort of touch that you can use on the right hand. So while you are playing this element with almost no force, no weight, on the first string here, if you can see well on my right hand, I am pushing the string to give a sound that will be more powerful but also more full. And this is this contrast between the softness of the sound here and the timbre. You know, the fact that we use the whole resonance of the guitar in the treble here. That will create the sensation of counterpoint. So something very important when you practice this study very slow. You look at your right hand. And you check that you are pressing more with one finger, the finger that plays the melody or the bass, and almost not for the other notes. So course, you must hear the dynamic. So, of course, the melody should be with more volume than the ostinato. But you can also look at your right hand and you know, work on your touch. But please, first, let's work only with your ear, not with your finger. So first, make sure that you hear well the melody coming out, you know, and then you have a look. Please, let's first start with your ear. So this will be the main practice that you can do in this study, and I suggest you to develop that on this piece. Is some technique that you can use in most of all the pieces that you can play. Usually when there is accompaniment and melody, this is how I personally like to shape the sound when I'm playing mostly tirando. And in this piece, I will play mostly tirando. And okay, if you want to play it with some apoyandos, please do. But it's anyway not really possible to do everything apoyando. So I suggest you to practice in this way with some tirandos. All right, let's now start again. I will start a little faster, and I will give you maybe some musical ideas and maybe some fingerings that I figured out because I made little changes with the original. So it starts, of course, very soft here. And here, be careful that the bass arrives well. It's like almost you are playing a fugue, right? The bass is coming, pa pum, like this, and make it with a nice volume. So here is a little bit of a difficulty. This position is not so easy. It's easy from there. But here, make sure that you can, you know, find, you know, a stability with this finger and use only those three for the extension. You can, of course, use the rest of the arm, is what I do. But be very careful that this don't move. So you can be turning around, but don't move it in this way, otherwise you might lose the note. So be very careful, very precise. And here I suggest you keep the fourth finger to maintain the legato. So be careful not to have this. This won't sound very nice, right? So, you see, I keep the fourth finger. And here, I prefer to play the first finger here and shift later, because we just had a shift before. So I don't like to shift immediately, but to continue like this. Here, musically, we need this mi, la, si, re, mi, la, si, re, with also a little bit of volume. Here we go to a new position. So here I changed the fingering. But first, before showing you the fingering, I want to point out a common mistake that I hear often in this piece is that when we are playing notes with the left hand with a melody, we tend to give natural expression on it, sometimes with vibrato, but we play it bright. But when we play an open string, Sometimes it's very thin. So be careful when it's in the melody. Here we have mi, re, mi, or e, d, e, right? And this E must have the same quality of sound and the same volume than what you have before. So be careful that you hear well this E. Common mistake is to do this. The E without any expression. So please be careful in this piece. When you have an open string, always put a little bit more of intention on it and be careful. So here I changed slightly the fingering. Original fingering is this. I prefer to use the open string here and do this. So instead of playing the B on the fourth string, I prefer to play it open string. Not a big deal. It is just my my taste, and you can do the original fingering if you prefer, but I prefer this one. And then from there, open string and then harmonic with second finger. Here is the same, shift one position, and here I like, instead of doing, I like to open string immediately with B and G. So I like to give more open strings just to have more time, and I can make it more clean also. So I will do it once again slow, that you can look at the fingering and look at the movement of my hands. Open strings, third finger here, fourth finger, and here I play with the C. I play it with the second finger because I like to have the third finger here on the F, so that I can put second and fourth finger like that, and the F with first finger. I think it's more comfortable than the original fingering. Because I don't like this open string, I prefer to have this chromatism like this. So that's why I changed a little bit the fingering. Well, once again, the original fingering is good. It's just, let's say, my little it fits better my playing, and please, give it a try. Also, you can see here something typical from what I like to do in terms of fingering. Instead of doing always 2 and 1 in this order, I like to have it backward. So we are taught usually to play first and second finger in this way, but I like actually to change them sometimes. So here it's not very easy to make appear this. So here you can do a specific practicing just for this little passage. If you look at my right hand, I will press a little more the E here. And the D, but especially in the chord. So it's like you can see that they're not completely straight. The M is a little bit more advanced. Just to have it, just to put it with to play with a bit more of weight, and you can see now that the strings, I push really much this one. Of course, it's something that you practice slow. When you play fast, you should not think too much about it, but take care of it. When you practice slow, be very careful on all those details.